They broke into my car, stole my passport, my wife's passport, and my daughter's passport, and then handed me a fake bill for it. They thought I was just another foreigner who'd pay up and shut up. They had no idea I was about to make one phone call that would end with them in handcuffs. If you've ever been underestimated by someone who thought they had all the power, and then watched their whole world fall apart, this story is for you. My name's Ethan, and this happened while I was serving overseas with the U.S. military. Stick around, because by the end of this video, one dirty cop is going to learn exactly what happens when you steal from the wrong family. Hit that like button, subscribe, and let's get into it. My name is Ethan Reyes. Back then, I was a staff sergeant stationed overseas, living off base with my wife, Claire, and our 7-year-old daughter, Maddie. It wasn't a glamorous posting. The town around the base was rough around the edges, poor, a little lawless in the corners nobody officially talked about. Petty theft was common, so was a certain kind of hustle that everyone quietly knew about, but nobody dared challenge. The hustle worked like this. Local police had access to the vehicle inspection database. If your inspection sticker looked even slightly off, expired, damaged, smudged, certain officers wouldn't just write you a ticket. They'd break into your car, empty it out completely, and leave a note saying your belongings were being held at the station. You'd show up, and only then would you find out you owed a fine. Pay the fine, get your stuff back. Don't pay, and good luck. Everyone knew it was extortion dressed up as law enforcement. Nobody said it out loud. You just learned to keep your sticker current and pray. I was careful, obsessively careful actually, because I'm the kind of guy who triple checks the stove is off before leaving the house. My inspection was current. I checked it myself twice, because I'd heard the horror stories from guys at the base. But here's where I made the one mistake that would nearly cost my family everything. The night before, I'd pulled our passports out of the safe, mine, Claire's, and Maddie's, because I had a full day planned. I needed to drop off paperwork at the base for Claire's passport renewal, since hers was expiring soon, and I figured I'd just toss all 3 passports in the glove box the night before so I wouldn't forget them in the morning rush. Locked the car. Went to bed. Didn't think twice about it. I remember walking out to the car that morning with my travel mug of coffee in one hand and my keys in the other, already running through the day in my head. Dropped Maddie at school, hit the base, grabbed lunch, back to work by 10. Normal Tuesday. Then I saw the note on the driver's seat. My stomach dropped before I even finished reading it. The car door wasn't forced. They'd used some kind of tool that popped the lock clean, without leaving obvious damage, which somehow made it worse. Professional. Practiced. The note said my belongings had been confiscated due to an invalid inspection sticker, and that everything was being held at the local police station. I stood there in the driveway, coffee going cold in my hand, running through everything that had been in that car. Sunglasses, a phone charger, Maddie's stuffed rabbit that never left the back seat, and the passports. My knees actually went weak for a second. 3 U.S. passports, mine, my wife's, my 7-year-old's, sitting in some evidence bin at a police station run by people who'd just broken into my car for a sticker that, as far as I knew, wasn't even expired. I checked the windshield. Sticker looked fine to me. Current date, right there in the corner. Maddie was already dressed for school, backpack on, standing in the doorway asking why Daddy looked like that. I forced a smile, told her we'd figure it out, and started calling around to see who could get her to school since our car, my only way to drive her, was now missing its glove box contents, and my morning had officially exploded. Claire came out when she heard me on the phone, and I watched her face go through the exact same sequence mine had. Confusion, then dread, then that particular kind of fury that only shows up when someone threatens your kids. By the time I actually made it to the police station, after scrambling a ride for Maddie and calling in late to work, I wasn't scared anymore. I was furious, and underneath the fury, laser-focused. I walked up to the front desk and asked, as calmly as I could manage, what exactly was going on with my vehicle. The officer barely looked up, told me my inspection was flagged as invalid, that my things were being processed, and that there'd be a fine. I pulled out my phone. I had photos of every inspection document, time-stamped, because, again, I'm the guy who documents everything. I showed him the current, valid sticker date, showed him the paperwork, watched his expression shift from bored to uncomfortable in about 3 seconds. He disappeared into the back to check on something. Came back a few minutes later with a different attitude entirely. Apologetic, almost nervous, and told me there'd been a mistake, that my things would be returned right away. I asked to file a police report for the break-in and theft. He looked at me like I'd asked him to arrest the mayor. Nothing was stolen, he said. Everything is being returned to you. I let that sit for a second. Then I asked him, very evenly, where my wife's passport was. He shrugged, told me whatever was in the bin was in the bin, implying, without quite saying it, that if it wasn't there, that wasn't his problem. That's when something clicked into place in my head. I wasn't dealing with a bureaucratic mix-up. I was dealing with a system where confiscated sometimes meant gone, and where a U.S. passport, especially one for a woman, especially one that could be sold or used for something far worse than a parking fine, was worth a lot more on the side than any inspection fee. I felt that cold, focused calm settle over me, the kind you get when you stop reacting and start planning. I told the officer flatly that I needed a police report, not for the fine, for the missing passport, because if it wasn't in that bin, I was going to have to report a stolen U.S. federal document to the embassy, and the embassy was going to want to know exactly which station had processed the theft that morning, and exactly which officer had been the one to break into a U.S. service member's vehicle and remove it. The embassy contact went quiet for a second on the phone, then told me they'd be looking into it, and that they took reports of stolen U.S. travel documents extremely seriously, especially ones connected to potential misuse of official police access. I emailed over the police report the second I had it in hand. A few days later, word started filtering back to me through some contacts I had on base with local law enforcement liaisons. The embassy hadn't just filed a note and moved on. They'd pushed hard, because a stolen U.S. passport isn't a local shoplifting case. It's a document that can be used for identity fraud, trafficking, all kinds of things that get federal agencies involved fast. The officer who'd taken it, the same one who'd told me, whatever's there is there, got arrested. Not just fined for the sticker scam. Additional charges, because stealing a foreign government's official travel document is a very different category of crime than shaking down a local for a parking violation. I would have paid real money to see the look on his face when officers from his own department showed up, wherever he was, and told him to come with them. The guy who thought he was untouchable behind a badge, brought down by the exact kind of documentation obsession he probably assumed I didn't have. We got Maddie's rabbit back too, for what it's worth, and the embassy, as an apology for the whole ordeal, expedited a brand new passport for Claire at no cost. I don't feel 1 ounce of guilt about it. He wasn't punished for a parking sticker. He was punished for deciding that a family's passports were his to take. Sometimes the people who think they hold all the power are the ones who forget to check who they're actually dealing with. I wasn't trying to ruin anyone's life. I was trying to protect mine. What happened to him after that was entirely on him. If this story got your blood boiling and then made you grin by the end, smash that like button and drop a comment. What's the most satisfying case of karma you've ever seen play out? And if you want more real stories like this one, hit subscribe, because trust me, this isn't the craziest thing that happened during my time overseas.